I had the opportunity to interview Malcolm Mitchell, an entrepreneur and innovator. He told me a few of his stories, including how he created the modern Venus flytrap industry.
I went to Home Depot, and they had a little impulse purchase display by the checkout of Venus flytraps. So I bought one and brought it home. This was about maybe 20 years ago. And it promptly died. And it turns out that the entire world range for Venus flytraps is a 90-mile radius.
That's it?
That's it.
90 miles is...
90-mile radius. Furthermore, that 90-mile radius, you would think, where do you think they're from?
Amazon?
You'd think so. They're from a 90-mile radius around Wilmington, North Carolina.
Wow.
So they're not as exotic. You know, you'd think they're like the jungle.
I'm thinking, you know,
Sumatra or Borneo.
Like
yes,
yeah.
And many of the pitcher plants are from Sumatra and Borneo.
Realizing this market was unsustainable, Malcolm began experimenting in his kitchen with cell cultures.
It turned out to not be particularly technically difficult. And so thought, well, you know, maybe there's a business in here. Started out with about, well over 1,000 different genetics of the Venus flytraps until I picked 6, which had nice traps, had nice color, had nice trap activity, had disease resistance, they grew quickly. So my understanding is almost every Venus flytrap which you see in the stores today is a descendant of one of the original clones.
Around 1978, Malcolm worked as a subcontractor with Northrop, fixing speedboats at a survival trading center in the Persian Gulf. It was there, in the dunes of Saudi Arabia, that inspiration struck, and he decided to try making and selling dune buggies.
There was a lot of interest, including from the ruler of one of the emirates. The UAE is, I believe, 7 different little emirates, little kingdoms.
Nation states.
Yeah, nation states, yeah. So, however, the ruler of Sharjah was sort of a friend, or my business partner, Hassan was his name, knew him. He asked a question. He said, whose car do you think is faster, yours or mine?
That's a fun question.
And I went, oh my goodness, how do I answer this question? I don't want to humiliate him.
Right.
On the other hand, we're trying to promote this product.
So you want...
And so how do I answer?
So, how do you figure out...
So I had this epiphany. I said, well, I believe that your car is faster on the highway, and I believe that my car is faster in the desert. So,
brilliant. The sheik proposed a race. Malcolm on the sand, the sheik on the road. Malcolm won. And this wasn't the last time he would be driving across the desert. In 1990, Malcolm made the 20,000-mile journey from London to Cape Town, South Africa. It was partway through the Sahara Desert in Algeria that he had an interesting encounter with a Tuareg man wandering outside camp.
But anyway, I invited this guy up to the camp, and he told me this story. He had been there's a town called Menaka in Mali, and there had been some atrocities during a civil war between the Tuaregs and the Malian government, and the Malian troops had come in, and there'd been a massacre in Menaka. And so this guy had brought a French film crew in to document the atrocities. Well, the Malian government found out about it, and then abducted his wife and infant daughter and put him in jail.
Oh.
So he had been heading north across the Sahara to try to get back to France so that he could try to get help and get pressure from the French government in order to get his wife and daughter out of jail. Well, along the way, his camel died. So here he is, he's finished. He is in the middle of the Sahara without a camel, and he sees the campfire. And as he's telling me the story and a little bit about his background, I said, "Is your name El Bashir?" He just about passed out. It turns out that my friend, Bill Wheeler, had met this guy, El Bashir, when he had crossed the Sahara. Told me his story, and I met the same guy. So here is this Tuareg nomad, comes up to a stranger.
In the middle of the Sahara.
Who's an American guy with a Land Rover, and the guy knows his name.
Malcolm got El-Bashir on a plane to France, and al-Bashir welcomed any visits in the future, saying he would bring Malcolm to places no outsider had ever seen. But visiting would be complicated.
And maybe he got my letter saying I was coming. Because if he didn't get the letter saying I was coming, he wouldn't know to be there, and I would spend thousands of dollars to show up in the desert and have him not be there.
All right,
yeah,
going home.
So, but I said, I'm going to just go for it. Because I said I'm going to go. So, flew to Paris, and then from Paris to Niamey, which is in Niger, and then hired a four-wheel drive to take me up into Mali to Gao, which is on the Niger River, and then from there on Tuareg in another 4x4 to go 3 more days out into the desert to meet. And as we drove up in this Toyota Land Cruiser, there was El-Bashir with 4 camels. We got on the camels and headed out, and we found over 1,000 arrowheads and stone tools. And actually, if you'd like, I'll show you some of them.
Sure.
Okay. Let's say the nomads of those hunter-gatherers of ancient times would be going up a stream, and then it would come to a branch where they could go one way or the other. Well, that would be a logical place to camp. So I began to look for any time I saw the confluence of 2 valleys. And this would be there. Every single time.
Huh. Without fail. That's where
fail, because that's where they would camp. Now, the arrowheads, here was the secret on those. If the arrow was shot and lost, the ground at that time had topsoil on it. And for thousands of years, people would shoot and miss. And over time, that topsoil would blow away. That's how you'd find them. Rather than just looking just randomly looking around in gravel and all, you'll never find them. Well, you will, you'll find a few. But if you could find a big granite dome that has no topsoil on it at all, just rock,
then it's going to
be
spotting it. It's going to be
all
easy.
You do is look for every single not attached rock about yay big, and you go, oh, there's one.
Hey,
there's one. Another. There's one. So that was one of the 3 things that I asked to see. The other was petroglyphs. So he brought us into an area called Taudini, and it was covered with petroglyphs. Some of them humans, riding animals, game that of course has long since disappeared, ostriches and I can't remember all the different types. I've took many pictures of them. Different animals which no longer inhabit the Sahara. So there's lots of petroglyphs. He says, all right, we're going to go find bones. And way off in the distance, we could see this black escarpment. And as we got closer and closer, I looked down, and I started to see fragments of bone. And right away, I asked him, stop, look. And finally, I saw this vertebrae like this. And I insisted that we stop the camel and get off. And he was so annoyed with me. He goes, no, come on, let's go. It's nothing. And it turns out that this black escarpment is solid dinosaur bones.
Whoa.
Solid bones. I would love to go back. Unfortunately, that area would be suicide to go in there now.
It's just completely
unsafe with Al-Qaeda and the whole blow up of Libya and the arms that now have come down into Mali and Niger and that whole region. And I know where it is. If it ever clears up, I would love to go back.
Today, Malcolm Mitchell is working with his charitable foundation, Renova Project, to help build nonprofits like helping this pygmy village get a medical clinic, which treats 400 patients a month. And this weekend, he's leaving to Beijing to do work with trafficked women. It was an honor to interview him, and I hope his travels find him well.